Hello, everyone. Welcome to our DocsGPT live stream. Haven't seen in a long time. It's nice seeing you again here. Today we have some special live stream and special news to talk about and discuss prepared. I will let Pavel do the session and talk about the agenda.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear us well. I see that people are coming to the stream. For somebody who doesn't know us, I'm the co-founder of Arc53, and so DocsGPT, Alex, another co-founder. Today we wanted to do a short stream. It will be for about an hour. I'll just quickly run down through agenda, and then we'll probably start shortly after that. So first, we want to introduce you to LLM Compass. It's our new tool benchmark for self-hosting LLM and comparing their efficiency. Then I'll shortly do a CLI for DocsGPT showcase. Then we'll probably do a small rundown for features that are new to DocsGPT, as we haven't done that in a long time. And in the end of the stream, we'll do a Q&A session. Everybody can ask their questions in the chat. You can start asking them now if you want to. You can stick to the end and ask them live, whatever you prefer, guys. So I'll pass it down to Alex and he can start.
All right. So one of the new cool things that we have published recently is our LLM price comparison tool. It's a table. It really is a simple table that helps us compare inference prices for large language models. And it also helps us find the most efficient way to deploy large language models. Many people in production use cases want to deploy models like Llama 3. And in many of those cases, they want to deploy it on premises to avoid sending data to external companies like OpenAI or Anthropic. And one of the only ways to ensure that such data is not being sent to other companies is to deploy it on premises or deploy it yourself. Find the GPU on the cloud and just deploy it there. I'll show you this table and I'll show you how you can add benchmarks there, how people can compare GPUs and figure out the cheapest options. And that will help you to figure out how to deploy LLMs like Llama 3.1, 7TB or 8B in the cheapest way possible. Because once you figure out those cheap ways of deploying such large language models, you'll be able to deploy them on premises or on your own cloud, and that will help you save a lot of money. In our benchmark, we also look at tokens per second. We're also looking at how many requests per second they can handle. So this is something that will help you deploy it in production and handle multiple users, handle many users. And it will probably be your guide to create simple calculations, like how many users can my GPU handle, how many users can my application handle. And if you, for example, have a requirement to handle 1,000 users throughout the day, you'll be able to say that one GPU is sufficient, or you may need 2 or 3 GPUs for your application. I'll share my screen and show you our GitHub page first. So this is what we published recently. It's a simple GitHub page. So everything is open source. Everything is here. All the data, all the scripts, all the instructions on how to create and generate benchmark. Pavel, can you confirm if my stream is looking well? If you can see my screen? Yeah. All right. So if we open the Compass, if you open the website, the landing page, you'll be able to see different names here, and those are providers and GPUs. So here we're comparing providers like Grok, Deep Infra to simple GPU models. And we're looking at how much does it cost per token. So the lower the cost, the cheaper it is, the higher the cost, the more expensive it is for you. So for example, if you're deploying it on NVIDIA H100, it may cost you $0.14 per million tokens and $0.14 per million output tokens. And you can compare it to companies like Octo AI. So the prices are pretty much the same. So if you're deploying on Scaleway and you have to have this provisioned capacity of tokens that people are generating, and if you're generating up to that maximum amount, then you probably would be better off choosing NVIDIA H100. But if you're obviously just making 1 or 2 requests a day, it's obviously cheaper to use Octo AI, because deploying NVIDIA H100 may be around $1,000, maybe $1,500 a month, depending on the provider. And here you can also compare tokens per ingest tokens of providers like Lepton AI and Grok. And Grok is showing really good pricing. But one concern that some people have is if those providers are using quantized models, and some of them disclose if they're using quantized models, some of them don't really disclose. But in any case, what you will get here is a recipe for a perfect model that you can deploy in the cheapest possible way. So to deploy a model, and in this case, we're looking at Llama 3.18b, which is open source model by Meta. You will see that it requires a GPU, and we're looking at H100. And with this GPU, we actually parallelize this model because it has enough memory. And that's one of the reasons why we achieved high through output. And that's why the cost is so low, is because through output is very high. There are different engines that we use behind our models. So for H100, we used SGLang. It's a serving framework for large language models. This is a framework that's focused on speed. And this is how you can actually achieve a low cost, is by focusing on speed. And another popular framework is VLLM. So in this case, I actually benchmarked it on both of them, compared them, and I figured out that parallelized SGLang is much faster and gives us better results. Thus, it's cheaper. So if you go back to repository, our main table is called LLM Provider Comparison CSV. If you open it, you will see a table with prices and providers. So we have NVIDIA H100. And the way we're adding those numbers in depends on what inference provider it is. If it's a managed inference provider like Grok, Deep Infra, Octo AI, it would come from managed providers JSON file. So we just manually fill in this data, and it automatically gets populated in the CSV document. But for other rows like NVIDIA H100 or NVIDIA L4, we have to run benchmarks. And those benchmarks are located inside the benchmarks folder. And then you see a name of a GPU. And this is the benchmark. This is a generated benchmark from SGLang or VLLM. They actually provide standard benchmarks. And I will show you quickly how to create a benchmark. It's only a few steps. It will probably take you 15 minutes to create a benchmark. But this is, most of the fields here are automatically generated from the script. And the most important fields are input through output, output through output, GPU provider, and the place where we deployed it. So we used Scaleway, and we looked at their hourly pricing, which was $3 an hour. And then we have a simple formula that takes all of those input, output through output numbers and calculates cost per million input tokens or million output tokens. And this is how you can compare it to managed providers. And I have another benchmark where I actually used VLLM. And then we had a person actually submit a benchmark to us. which was a simple VLLM script, I think, and it was deployed on AWS using NVIDIA A10G. So just to show you how easy it is to run a benchmark and submit it, if you do have GPUs, if you want to submit and contribute to our open source research, you can easily follow this guide in contributing.md file. The only things you'll need to do is to set up a server with the GPU, install the latest Ubuntu on it, and then run a few commands, just copy paste them, and then finally serve a model. This example is actually focused on VLLM, but you can serve a model in a similar way using SGLang or any other inference engine. What's important is that the benchmark that we're running, you will just need to swap out the backend. And if you swap out the backend to whatever is relevant in your case, it will automatically generate a JSON file. And finally, when you are ready with your benchmark, you can click this button and just fill in all of those fields. There are only a few fields here, like GPU name, cost per hour, the backend that you're using, the model, and the input and output through output numbers. And you can also add extra data in the notes. So here's an example of someone that has submitted a benchmark that I've added into the CSV file. It's just a few fields that the user added and some minor notes to explain on how they ran the inference and calculated the cost. And using this, I simply added it into our benchmarks JSON document, and then it automatically updated the whole LLM provider comparison list. Also on our Compass website, you have Explore Data Grid option to open this CSV file in a nice way and just explore and filter it. And you can filter it by any model that you want, and you can see which one's cheaper, which one's more expensive, and you can obviously export it as a CSV document. Does anyone have any questions in relation to the Compass?
There is a short delay, so we'll wait a little bit
I think there's
for the
a
questions.
minute delay between everything I say and the YouTube stream. So if anyone has any questions, please just submit them in the chat. I will try and answer them as soon as possible. And on to our next segment, which is our Pavel CLI tool. If Pavel can share a screen and maybe talk a little bit about CLI, that would be great.
Yeah, so we just wanted to showcase what is possible to do with DocsGPT API, and I see that my screen is sharing now. What is possible to do with DocsGPT API, how you can use it to showcase a small tool that I wrote for myself at the beginning. But after the stream, we're gonna publish a repository for anybody who wants to set up something like this on their environment and use it. So I'll just do a quick showcase of what is it. So in the command line, you can just write DocsGPT and then ask your question. So for example, how to list Conda environments. You can see that it finds the command, just prints out very short response. This is a command line tool, and you don't want it to be too lengthy to read too much. You can see we can use it, find the environment that I have, or for example, how to move as there is such folder in this repository, and you can see it even copied the command can test it with ls. You can see there is a CMD repository here. So how this works, I just connected, there is very short code for it, but I created a prompt CLI test. You can see here in DocsGPT website. I asked the model to give responses very concisely, so that it doesn't overflow the UI. And in the chatbots section, formerly API, I created a key. So now I can connect to this prompt. If you guys didn't yet look at this, you can just create an API key and connect it to any tool that you would like to, write your own tool. So I chose a source document as default, so it doesn't actually see any document, and set chunks process to 0 just to make sure that it doesn't have any document to look at. Selected the model and then chose the active prompt I just showed to you. And now you can see it sending, we shall update it. And now you can see that it sends current repository. You can turn it off if you would like, if you don't want that. And also sends the content of the repository to make it easier for the model to answer. We'll post the repository to our GitHub with this tool. If you guys would like to explore, probably you can ask in the chat if you would like to work on it, if you would like any features to be added, because now it can copy some commands if it finds the command in the response, and also sends the current location and the content of that location to the model so it can answer better.
I have a question. I want you to try asking the CLI tool. So I frequently use a thing called kubectl. So it's like a Kubernetes command line. Maybe you can show your screen again quickly, Pavel. I want you to just ask one question for the CLI tool. So frequently, I have to use different CLI tools in my life, like kubectl or Docker Compose tools or npm lint tools or whatever. And I have a lot of questions for them a lot of the time. And I usually go to documentation to check out what's going on. So the question I wanted to ask for the CLI is how to display running pods using kubectl. So nice. So kubectl get pods. That's that's the correct command. So potentially, what I can do is I can go to remote ingesters and ingest all of kubectl's latest documentation. So we don't just use LLM's memory. So we're using like the latest memory, not the latest the latest version of the documentation of kubectl, and just directly asking the questions about it. I have a more complicated question to ask, Pavel. Sorry for making a third of the stream there. It's usually the pods in kubectl, they get expired a lot. Is create a command to clean up expired pods using kubectl. Right? It's a more complicated command because I think it requires 2 or 3 things that need to be done at the same time.
My screen again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Perfect.
Let's try.
So ask, DocsGPT.
Yeah. What was the
how
question?
How to clean up expired pods using kubectl command.
So it's kubectl delete pod, then dash dash field selector equals status phase equals failed.
Okay, that's nice.
And Alex can tell us if that's the correct command or not.
Yeah, that's the correct. There are a few other ways you can do it, but that's a very short one, I guess. I think what's really cool about this tool is that if you're, for example, even working with AWS and you want to integrate AWS CLI, you can go to uploads and upload all of the AWS's documentation. And from there, you can use the DocsGPT CLI to automatically answer questions about whichever CLI tool you want. And that brings us, honestly, to the next
And
point of
also,
our conversation. Yeah.
sorry, I'll just add to you, Alex. And when you're creating your chatbot, obviously you can select a document that you would like to be used. So from the use case that Alex has proposed, you can just create multiple API keys and connect them to, for example, the CLI tool when you need it. So you're working with Kubernetes, you connect API key with that documentation, or if you're working on AVS, some other cloud, you can connect that key to make the answers more correct, basically.
Someone asked, can I confirm history of prompt from CLI on web? I think that's absolutely possible. Like you would see your chats show up in a chats window, but actually we will rework that slightly and put it in a separate menu in the future. But currently you will see it in your chats menu. So if Pavel would open like any of his other old chats, you will see fully the conversation that happened. And you will also see the sources that were used to answer the question. In current Pavel setup, he's just using internal LLM's knowledge to answer the questions. But if you were to connect it to any other source of data, you would see all other sources that were used to answer that specific question. So as for debugging, that's very good. And you can also change the prompt for that CLI tool. So if you want that CLI to be slightly different or to be slightly optimized to some longer workflows, or you want to cram it down in one-liner all the time, then it will do just what you want.
Also, we have the remote source documents now, and you can add your own remote source documents if you want to add, for example, your key to DuckDuckGo search. And after that, it will be able to get some data from the remote source first before answering the question, so you can get answers to be even more relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Next section, I will show you some features that are good for teams and organizations if you're collaborating with other people or if you're just publishing chatbots. So what Pavel did is actually one of the use cases of chatbots that you can create with DocsGPT. There are many other use cases where you can create web chats or integrate them with a messaging app to represent your company or something like this. You can also integrate them with CLI, and you can integrate them on websites as widgets. But I'll show you some other collaboration tools like sharing documentation and sharing chats and making those shared chats promptable, which is a new feature that we added. So as you see, I'm currently in my settings menu in documents, and I'm using the organization plan for DocsGPT. So in organization, you can actually invite other people to collaborate with. So you can invite people from your team to work within the organization on DocsGPT, and that gives you certain perks. One of those perks is that you can simply avoid having to purchase pro subscriptions for all of the users and having one consolidated billing plan. You can just simply invite people here and then look at pending invitations. You can go to your plan and monitor the API key usage. So all of the chatbots, they're utilizing those API keys, and you can check how frequently they're being used and what are they using this month. Or you can also do something like sharing documentation. So for example, if I upload some documentation from AWS or some internal company documentation, and I want to share it with my team members in my company, I can just click share, and it will show up as one of the sources in the source docs here. And that will allow them to create chatbots even with those documents. But basically, it's a very simple way for you to have somebody in your company who is just managing documents, who is just managing ingestion pipelines, and then sharing it with the rest of your team members in the company. So everyone who is using this tool in the company will have access to those shared documents. And another cool feature that we added recently is basically sharing chats. So if you let's just say I want to share a chat with other people outside of my organization or even within my organization, I can ask it write code for API request on API answer. It's just a random question. It's not using any sources, as you see. I can click the share button, and once I click create, it will generate a special code for it. It actually generates a chatbot in the background and then attaches a special code to our special page. And whenever other people open this page, they will see something like this. So they will see your chat with DocsGPT, and they will be able to explore it. But if you want to push it one extra step forward, and let's say you want to allow users to have further conversations with your chat, you can just click allow users to prompt further, and then you select the source documents that it gets access to, click create, click copy, and now users can submit further messages and have further conversations within the same chat. And that will actually use your chatbot API in the background and allow users to have further conversations. We also added something called rich feedback, where every time users are submitting feedback, they now have an option to describe what went wrong or what went well within their conversation in more detail and submit it. And administrators from every organization will be able to download the history of feedback, and that will allow them to correspond with their users in a way more active way. So this rich feedback, you will be able to export it as an administrator of your organization, whatever users are submitting in your account. And finally, another cool feature that we're working on is a dashboard for first, we're going to publish it on an open source version, a simple dashboard where you will see logs. And then we will show a simple dashboard where you will see how many messages people are sending within your organization, how many tokens per day you're using within your organization, and a feedback. And you'll be able to filter it using chatbots, which are deployed, and you will be able to filter it granularly for each user within your organization. And in the logs menu, you'll be able to see all the conversations that happen on your instance or within your organization, just to have an extra audit and an overview of what's going on inside. And another cool feature that we have recently added is new conversations look. So currently, I set it up in a way where I'm not using any chunks. It's not processing any chunks per query. Let's set it to 2, and let's set our active prompt to default. Also, a quick note, whenever you're creating prompts, make sure that you include summary tag at the bottom. Otherwise, it will not use your documentation to answer questions. And let's try and ask it a simple query like summarize current documentation. I think currently default uses nothing, but let's use something as simple as MongoDB's documentation and ask it to summarize the context now. And as you see, we have this little loading menu, and it's currently loading sources, and those sources will show up at the end after DocsGPT finishes processing query. Takes a few seconds for search to finish. And what you will see here is a rich description of information that was used to answer the question. And also you will see a link here, and it's a clickable link. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to go to the source that was ingested. So the way I ingested MongoDB's documentation is I went to MongoDB docs. I just copied the link. I click upload. I choose remote. I choose crawler. Let's say MongoDB v2. And then I can hit train. This will go and crawl every single page of MongoDB's documentation. And it will ingest it in our vector database. And this will allow DocsGPT to have a chat and a conversation with that documentation, and it will ground DocsGPT only to the sources that are provided from the MongoDB's docs. So if you're gonna try and have a conversation about cooking recipes or about AWS CLI, it's not going to answer those questions. It's going to be grounded specifically in MongoDB's documentation. So if we answer a more complicated question, and let's say we want to use 10 chunks per query, and as a DocsGPT organization, you actually have access to all of the foundational models, all of the coolest and latest. And let's try and use Claude 3.5 Sonnet and ask it how to use PyMongo in Flask. So this will now go through all of MongoDB's documentation and answer this question using just the documentation, just the recommendations that MongoDB people gave us. And it will show us all of the sources that were used to process this query. And you will also be able to click on the links and check the previews, and you'll also be able to go to those relevant pages as well. So we also have this new sidebar where you can check out all of the sources, and they're also clickable. So you can check them out as well. And let's say I want to share this conversation with Pavel, and I want to make sure that it's promptable in future. I can just copy it and send it to him, and he will be able to have further conversations with it in future. And let's say he wants further clarification, or he wants to know what other methods can be used to query it. He will be able to ask a simple question, and DocsGPT will answer everything he wants and he needs for him. So that's pretty much basic new features that we're deploying for organizations. And I think the final feature, not really a feature, maybe a little bonus for everyone who's using organizations, is the models. So usually you get access to them only on DocsGPT Pro plan, but everyone within an organization will get access to those models. It's GPT-4o and Cloud Sonnet model. We also recently added a test model, which is DocsGPT 405b. It's based on the largest Llama model. It's very hard to deploy it, but we managed to deploy it. And what's also cool about it is that we have some special models within our organization. So if companies do want to deploy something like a fine-tuned model, let's say they have a version of Llama 3 that's fine-tuned on some medical information, or that's fine-tuned on some consulting documentation that they're using, or they just want to use a specific tuned model, we can quickly add it for each team, and each team will have unique access to all of the models that they want. And if, let's say, an administrator of an organization wants to say that I don't want users to use OpenAI or Claude models, I only want our users to use models that are deployed by Arc53, by our team. If they want to make sure that the data doesn't leave our cloud, that we process all of the data, then we can simply restrict the organizational account only to DocsGPT models. And this way users will be able to have conversations privately, and the data that they're using in sources will be private too. So if they're uploading it from a file, from zip, or they have a custom ingester, and they're having those conversations will not go to other companies like OpenAI or Anthropic. We can limit organizational accounts and make sure that they can only chat with models that are deployed by us. And finally, we had a quick session on Discord, I think, a few weeks ago, where we had a discussion about the future of our product and what features we're adding, and what features users want to see in future. And we have a whole list of many features that are currently planned. We can go through them today, maybe quickly, but also for those features, we'd like to hear your input. And we also always listen to input from our viewers. We also always listen to your suggestions, and we prioritize features that you think are more or less important. So please, the floor is open to Q&A. Let's quickly talk about future features and what priorities we have and what priorities users have. And maybe you can suggest things that you want to see quicker. And then we can talk a little bit about Oktoberfest that's coming in October. It's almost a month and a little bit left. Let's look at the chat. We had somebody ask, is there a plan to support Excel files as documents to query? We currently support a CSV document. It's okay to ingest CSV document. If you have too many lines and too much contextual data there, that's hard to analyze for LLM. My suggestion is maybe you should look into just simple database analysis, because with the database you'll be able to summarize and aggregate tabular data. But if there's more text type of data in your CSV, that's completely fine. I think it's very easy to export data from Excel sheet to CSV. But I would honestly love to learn a little bit more about your use case and what you are using those Excel files for, and what kind of expectations you have from the Excel files, basically. All right. So we have an internal thing that we call Thoughtful Thursdays. It's something that we use to discuss our features and priorities of what we're going to deploy and push in future. So I'll show you a little bit around it and just show what's planned. And maybe we can all check out check it out and send some suggestions. So we split it up into a few sections. Backend improvements, things like VLLM connection that's native, proper OCR, because we have an OCR that we try to deploy with the text truck on AWS, but I think we want to do something cooler and simpler, something that's actually open source as well. Then some minor things that we want to improve on our backend side. Recently, we've done a lot of work in terms of improving sources and how sources are loaded. Next, we want to obviously create a dashboard for users. That's something that's currently our priority feature. Then we want to create a search plugin. It's basically a similar plugin to our current React plugin, but something that focuses a little bit more on it will focus a little bit more on search API rather than API answer. You can check out, by the way, our plugin here, extension that exists. It's just a simple chatbot that looks like a widget on your website. It literally takes minutes to set it up. Here is an example of it. We actually reworked it quite a lot in the last few weeks. And here is the simplest way to embed it is you just add the script tag and add another script tag. And here you can also customize it. So we have different sizes. So you have a medium size, which will make it more wide and more tall. And also the different themes, different color themes. If you want to check out all customization options, you can go to our documentation or even ask the chatbot, to be honest. And you will see things like button icon, button background, size, and that just allows you to have more control over the widget. It's a simple pre-built widget. So if you do want to make something more complicated out of it, you can always create a fork. But this is something that really requires no developer skill for you to customize it and improve the widget. I think trying to speak, but I think his microphone is muted.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add about Excel files. I think we have CSV, but I just tested it, and I think on live version there is some problem with uploading CSV. It used to work. We'll have a look on it after the stream. Try to fix it as soon as possible. But for transforming Excel file to structured JSON, as long as it is not too big, it should work fine.
Yeah, I think transforming Excel file to structured JSON, to be honest, the way I would do it is I would create a quick Python script. My suggestion is ingest just the header of your Excel file into DocsGPT and ask it to write a script. I'll give you an example. You know what? Let's do a quick live example. We have DocsGPT here. We have pretty much everything we need. We don't really need documentation. I'll set it to 0. I'll set it to assist mode. I'll choose a smarter model. Create a script to convert Excel file to structured JSON in Python. Use top row as header. Rest are the values. That's what I think would be actually the quickest way, probably. Can I guarantee that this script runs well? I think it actually will run well because it looks like it's using correct library, OpenPyXL. It uses internal knowledge of the model. But again, this is what DocsGPT is about. Let's go to OpenPyXL. Open the documentation. Click Uploads, click Remote, Crawler, OpenPyXL. Give it a link. We'll just wait less than 30 seconds, I think. I hope not more than that. Looks like it's already 30% done. It will ingest all of the documentation from OpenPyXL, and we will ask the same question again, but this time our AI will actually be grounded in the source truth from the OpenPyXL. And you will also be able to see sources, and they will be clickable, and you will be able to see what those sources contain. So as you see, there's some difference between two methods, I think. You didn't just import OpenPyXL, it imported a relevant function. So this looks like a correct workflow. Otherwise, the script looks similar. And in this case, you actually have some confidence in that it used correct source of truth. You can also click on the links here and just check out what was ingested. And let's compare two scripts, right? So it used the function instead of just a plain import and then a method. So I would say this code is simple, but in our case where we ingested all of documentation, it's probably slightly more efficient even.
So guys, are there any more questions you would like to ask? Because we're not sure if we have anything else to show you.
Yeah, you can always go to our GitHub issues if you have anything you want to check out or suggest for us. We will listen to you, we will listen to your feedback, and we will try to work on those issues as soon as possible. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time to process those issues whenever people are suggesting different vector databases or different LLMs. May take a bit of time to add them, but overall, we will get there and we will add it. If anyone is here from organizations or is just looking to try our organizational plan or organizational deployment, you can go through this link, cal.com/rpt3, and you can check out the demo, sign up for a demo, and we'll show you how you can embed DocsGPT in your organization. Finally, for this live stream, we wanted to quickly talk about upcoming Oktoberfest and what are our plans for Oktoberfest. I think this year we have new team members. We have more people within Arc53 to support us with it, because last year it was mostly me and Pavel. And fortunately, we did have some people from GitHub who were kind enough to help us triage and manage some of the issues and PRs that people were submitting. Because I think every day it was almost like 50 notifications or 100 notifications that I would wake up to. And I have to review code, I have to review issues. And it was very hard to do it with so few people. So this year, I think our timelines on processing all of the issues will be much, much better and will be much quicker. Also, what we're looking to do this year is, again, we will give away some cool merch, but we have not yet decided on where merch it is. Last year, we created a quick poll in our Discord and allowed people to submit their own images for the t-shirt. And I think this year we will do something similar again. We may have some extra options with other merch. And honestly, we're open to hear you out and to hear out any suggestions that people may have about the Oktoberfest stuff, about the Oktoberfest merch. We'll try and do something cool and creative. I think we have a really cool shirt last year. It was from a nice, cool fabric. But this year we will try and be creative again, as always. So you can always go to our Discord and submit some stuff. In terms of issues, we're always open to documentation issues. So things like just helping us organize our documentation, because it gets updated so quickly. And sometimes it takes us long to update that documentation everywhere, because we have many extensions. We have many README files for many extensions, and it's nice to have things consolidated. And if you can help us out here, that would be great. Last year, we saw a lot of people try and submit simple grammar, syntax error contributions. Those aren't really valid unless they're extremely thorough, but those aren't really valid for a price and weren't valid for a price. And I think the simplest way someone can contribute during the Oktoberfest to library like DocsGPT is to add new abstractions. So I will give you a quick look at our library and a quick look at our backend code. So this is for people who want to do stuff in Python. And don't feel intimidated with the whole idea of AI and machine learning. We pretty much nailed the method. What you will need to do is just apply the same methods, but for different libraries. So if you open LLMs, those are all different LLMs you can use with DocsGPT, stuff like SageMaker, PrimAI, Hugging Face, Anthropic. If you click on any of the libraries, you will see that they all use similar methods. So this is a concrete class, and all it needs to do is to just authenticate and initiate the library. And then after initiating it with the API key or something like this, it will have a method like rogen or rogen stream, where this function will just provide the textual response from the model. So if you have any cool models you want to add here, cool providers, that's a very easy way to get started with contributions. Same thing goes for vector stores. We currently have Quadrant, MongoDB, Elasticsearch. You can look at all of them as relevant examples, and you can submit more vector stores. And a bit more complicated and maybe more interesting as a PR to DocsGPT is a retriever. What we're using in our application is called retrieval augmented generation, is where you use some sort of information, some sort of source, and then you're adding it to the prompt, you're adding it to the model. And here's a classic RAG example. Here's an example where we're using web search, using Brave Search API, and just generating answers using it. You can also add other retrieval methods like graph retrieval, code retrieval. Maybe you can include things like self-attention RAG. So there are plenty of methods and plenty of cool things that can be added to DocsGPT if you're a new contributor.
Yeah, just to Alex that we'll try to populate our GitHub issues as much as we can. We'll try to think about some easy tasks for newcomers, maybe some not so easy tasks for people that already contributed and are more familiar with repository.
Yeah, I think Utin is more familiar.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to your contributions, Utin. Yeah.
And also, I think, and probably Alex will Just double check me on that. ARC53 Compass, the one that Alex showed at the beginning of the stream, also will be part of Hacktoberfest from our company this year. So if you will have relevant data and will be happy to help us to populate it, we'll be very happy with it.
Yeah, if you have a GPU, any GPU, it can be a small one, it can be a big one, it can be a cloud provided GPU, it can be something that's on your device. Submit us a benchmark and submit those benchmarks during Oktoberfest, and we'll appreciate it a lot. That is a very easy way to actually get started with contributing if you have a GPU.
And also, I know that Alex just talked about merch. Yes, we are looking for any ideas. So if you have any ideas, come to our Discord. We'll take a look at it. Maybe your idea will be the one that will take as our inspiration for this year's merch, but we'll also try to get some giveaway presents from our partners, and hopefully we can do that. We'll do a post later about it.
Yeah, we'll try to get started with Oktoberfest as early as possible because it is a big event, and we have more people, we have more workforce, we have more capacity to get involved in it. So I think this year it will be a much smoother sailing than it was last year. It will make it much easier for people to just contribute to it. Yeah. Also, just a quick thing I wanted to show for organizations. If you are interested in even trialing DocsGPT for organizations, you can submit a form here if you want. Just contact us on docsgpt.cloud, and we will reach out to you and try and figure out how we can help. And you can also use self-service to sign up. So if you want to create an organization, just fill your email, organization name, your slug. And once you create it, it will verify your email, and you will get started with the enterprise version of DocsGPT. And as you see, we have a slightly different link for enterprise people. It's called ent.docsgpt.cloud in comparison to simple app.docsgpt.cloud. And we have full self-service here enabled if you want to create your organization or a team and just see how it feels and works for you.
Great. So I don't see any new comments and questions in the chat. So I think we'll just leave it at that. If you have any questions after watching the stream, we will be happy to answer them in the Discord or maybe LinkedIn, whatever you prefer, or even Twitter. So thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. Hopefully it was helpful. Maybe you learned something new, found out something about DocsGPT that you didn't know before. Glad to see you here. Thank you for watching again. And just to Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. It's been great. I think we should do more live streams. I think that was a good tradition we did last year. We got extremely busy. This year we have a bit more capacity to do these things, and we'll continue our streams. I think they're good. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. Bye bye.
Goodbye, guys.